What's up, everybody? I'm Tim Metz, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to unbox a brush box. But before we get started with that, please be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my website, timmetz.com, for Zoom lessons and for courses coming up here pretty soon. All right, on to the unboxing. So, what you're about to see is kind of my initial reaction to this thing. I've never played it before, so just put some brushes on it and started playing and just kind of described what I was feeling and how it sounded. So Croaker Percussion sent this to me. I did not pay for it, so just want to let you know. And be sure to stay tuned for the end after the unboxing, because I did a lengthy interview with Erik Metz. No relation, at least we don't think so anyway. Did a lengthy interview with Erik Metz about Croaker Percussion and kind of the things that make his company special. So make sure you check that out. All right, here's kind of like my first impressions of this thing. So what are my first impressions of this thing? I don't know, it's kind of fun. I mean, obviously it's gorgeous. The craftsmanship is top notch. I mean, I'm a sucker for veneer, and this is definitely a beautiful, I think it's a waterfall babinga, but I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to find out. The texture on it is amazing. It makes it so that you can get that sound out of it. Seems like it'll last for a long time. It's really embedded into the finish on the veneer, and yeah, I don't know. It's wonderful. It's kind of interesting, you know, like you have the tone of the box here, and then you have the kind of the slappy, you know, you can almost hear it. You can hear the snares underneath because it's built like a cajon. It's just like a flat cajon almost. You can play with your hands. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can get different tones. Yeah, so I'm using nylon brushes because that's what Erik recommended. He's the person behind all of this. So Erik recommended using nylon brushes. I didn't have any, so I went out and bought these. Yeah, I'm not usually a fan of nylon brushes, but they seem to work really well on this. Let me try versus the other sticks. I mean, these work really well too. They seem to catch. They catch the granules more, and that was kind of his concern with it. Is that the wire brushes have a tendency to wear down the surface faster than a nylon brush. So that's my first take on the Croaker Brush Box. Now I'm lucky enough that I get to talk to Erik. He happens to have the same last name as me, Metz, about Croaker, about the brush box, kind of how it came up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to head on over to a Zoom meeting. We're going to talk to him. All right, everybody. We're joined here with Erik Metz from Croaker Percussion. Hi, Erik. Thanks for joining us on this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm just happy to be here. It was really great meeting you, and I'm glad we could set this up.
Super great meeting you, too. Like, I just really appreciate you reaching out and sending me the brush box. This thing is really neat. So I just filmed my first impressions, and they're it's wild, you know. It was a range of emotions.
That's great.
Yeah. So, can you give me a brief history of Croaker Percussion?
Sure, sure. Let's see. I founded the company about 7 years ago. I started a little before that when my oldest son asked me if I would buy him a cajon.
Mm.
I did not know what a cajon was, so we did a little bit of online research, and I said, I'll just make you one. It just seemed like a wooden box should be pretty straightforward. So into my very limited workshop at the time, I put together this box, and when I played it, it just did not sound good at all. So I took it to a music professor at the high school, and I asked him some questions about cajones, and he said, well, I have a little experience with them. So we went in and I played it. He played his cajon. I got some new ideas, and I went back to the drawing board and made another one. And that one turned out really well. He was very impressed, and he said, oh, that's really great. I don't know how you did it. And I said, well, I just changed these few things. And a couple of weeks later, he called me and said, hey, would you be willing to sell some of those? I said, I guess so. And he contacted the middle school music departments and said they could use cajones. The kids would get a good introduction. So I made 2 and sold them. And
Wow.
I was like, oh, I guess I could make more and sell more. And so I just started off that way, and I became rather obsessed with trying to get the sound quality to be improved. And full disclosure, I'm not a drummer. I can beat on the wooden box a little bit, make some noise so I can listen to it.
Yeah.
My background is in physics and engineering, so I just got obsessed with, I have to be able to make the sound better.
Well, and that leads me to my next question, probably, which is, how did the brush box here that you sent me? How did this come to be?
So it's a little bit of a funny story. One of my local artists was playing my cajones, and a sort of jazzy song came up with a singer-songwriter, and he got a pizza box and put it on top of the cajon and started playing brushes on it.
The old pizza box. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I saw this in a video, and I said, wow, that's a very expensive pizza box holder.
Oh.
And he was rather embarrassed, and I said, it's okay, but why don't I make you a wooden pizza box? That way you don't have to carry around a pizza box.
Right.
And I did. And our first few prototypes were exactly that, a square pizza box. And the brushes were not making enough sound, so I put some texture into the finish, and it got the brushes to really make a nice, bright, barking kind of sound. But it was square, and it was really hard to hold on to, and it used to fall out of your lap. So I put a little bracket underneath of it, and you would squeeze it in your legs. And he said after a while, he felt like he was Suzanne Summers,
yeah.
Working out the Thigh Master, and couldn't hold on to it enough. So he came to my shop here, and I watched him play it, and I grabbed the bungee cord and I stuck it around his waist and hooked it in, and it sat perfectly. So I said, okay, we need the strap. And then he asked me if I would make it in a hexagon shape, because the corners were getting in the way of this big square box. So and I at first said no, because I thought it would be rather difficult. And then I said, oh, a light bulb went off, and I figured out a way that I could make them. And so I made the first hexagon one, and I called him and said, okay, I'm going to make a hexagon one. I just finished one. Come on over. And he came over. I'll grab it. It's right here. Sorry to jump off camera, but the first hexagon one I'll hold up was
that's cool.
Here, and it was made with oak, which I don't use anymore. And the wood that I used was actually a solid piece of wood that came from Martin Guitar.
Oh, cool.
And Martin Guitar is a local company to here. It's only within an hour from my house.
Wow.
And a friend of his gave him some scrap wood from there, and so I glued it all together and made that for him. So it was a Martin Guitar surface box, and he just played it and played it and played it, and everywhere he went, people just kept commenting.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm gonna have to make this a product now, aren't I? Because it was just a custom one-off thing.
Right.
And because he couldn't stop playing it, I had to make it a product. So his last name is Wojcik, so I named it the Wojcik Brush Box.
How long does the finish generally last on these? Is it?
So it's a great question. Now, I have the very first brush boxes I made are still in action. I think that's going on 5 years now.
Okay.
But the people who keep them in action are predominantly brush players with a little bit of that tapping with the rubber coated where the nylon and handles meet. Right. I have plenty of artists who play with just wooden dowel rods, and you could you could potentially, if you play it hard, I have some that'll play just like a rock drum. We'll be in a bar with 100 people and no microphones, and they're just wailing away on it.
Yikes.
And I've had heads go maybe 2 to 3 years before they wear a spot in them.
Oh, okay.
And
are they serviceable? Is it replaceable, or?
I can replace them. You can't technically just buy a new one. I don't.
Right.
What I should explain is almost everything that I make is handcrafted by me.
Right.
I don't have many machines that do anything. I mean, I have a few machines here and there. I took you through a tour of the my shop, but most everything is done by hand. So all my cajones, for example, I square them up by hand, and they're all really close. But I always strive for about no more than 1 millimeter of tolerances wherever I can. Right. And I do all that by hand. That means many trips on the table saw and shimming and angles and things like that. So I can't just send you a new one in the mail without having your old one. So I have had one person send me back a head, and I just trace it out and I rebuild them that head and send it back to them. I do make other products besides the brush box and cajon. Right. I expanded in the brush box line into toms. So I have 3 different size toms available today on my website. They're called Little Woody, The Woody, and Big Woody. I first built the toms for an artist whose last name was Woodard. So he wanted to call it the Woody. So I named my whole product line the Woody. Awesome. I just finished the first mini Woodies this week. So they'll be going up on the website in a couple of weeks. I have to get them out and get them tested. And I find some local artists to take them for test drives.
Right.
And I told you about the dowel rods that we make. Right. And I used to make some other accessories. I kind of got out of some of that because they just don't sell much and they're a lot of work.
So
the last product, I do want to cover our last product line, which is the shaker.
Oh yeah.
So I go out and watch a lot of my artists, and they play with singer-songwriters and other percussionists, and I watch people play shakers, and I'm watching, and I'm not a drummer or a percussionist, so I don't know. And I just looked at what they were doing. And I thought, that just looks a little awkward. I think I need to fix that. And so I came up with an idea to take a shaker, but sort of mount it on a handle. So it would be a little bit like more like a maraca, if you would. And then I thought you would use it more of a fishing cast motion as opposed to a hand arm motion. And I built a prototype, and it was terrible. It was completely the wrong idea. Right. But in doing it, I had to connect basically have 2 shakers on either side of this handle. And what happened is when I built it, I liked the 2 shaker part. So I thought, okay, well, I'll get rid of the handle and I'll just put a big wooden divider in the middle. And I gave a couple to a few artists to try, and they loved them. But the only problem was they would come apart. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't have that happen. The first one that fell apart in a gig, there goes 100 BBs all over the floor. Right. So I thought, I'm like, okay, why don't I put that divider on the inside? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll put that on the inside. And so now all my shakers are, tube style shakers with a divider on the inside, a wooden divider, and I make them all by hand and I glue them up. And so now it's a 2-chamber shaker. Everything I make is handmade. So if you go to my website, you go, wow, that seems a little expensive, but you have to remember that everything's made by hand. Right. And the titanium shakers, they're very expensive. And I apologize to people in advance. Like, I'm sorry. It really takes a lot of time. Yeah. And the material's tough to work with, but I really enjoy it. I love the sound of the titanium shaker. It's really meant for studios, like a very, very high quality microphones really love that tone that comes out of that shaker. So someday I'll get one out in your way so you can give it a try.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, that'd be amazing. I love titanium.
I'm not supposed to say this out loud anymore because my wife yelled at me, but like, I would give away every drum just to watch people play them.
I'm cutting that out.
I know I can't, because then I won't be able to make more drums, but I really enjoy watching the instruments in the hands of professionals that are just doing things that I had never thought of. Had no idea the instruments could do what they do.
And you know what's to that point, it's really neat because I always feel like any art or any discipline that you're that is your discipline is connected to all the other arts and disciplines that are out there. So, and this is a real true way of experiencing that. This is you made this. This is your art, helping other people create their art. And the connection there is really amazing. So,
and maybe one of the reasons I really like is I can't play it.
yeah,
I don't have the skills to do the instrument justice. And so I'm always looking for an artist whenever I have a new product. Like I have maybe 10 products sitting in my head right now. I can't get them out fast enough.
Erik, thank you so much for joining me on this video today and showing us about your company and about the brush box and all that stuff. It's really such an amazing story and journey that you've had.
And thanks for when I reached out to you online and getting back to me, and I just enjoyed working with you thus far. And I think I'd like you to try everything that I make.
Yeah.
I'm mostly always looking for your opinion and feedback, and just being able to collaborate with somebody who has the skills to put the products through their test is invaluable to me.
I'm gonna bring this out on a Latin gig. I think I've got one coming up. It'll be pretty fun to just play this and see what it does. A lot of my students, when they've seen it, they say, oh, you could go out busking with this, or just like play on a corner and do that stuff.
Yeah, just not to go too much longer, but I did have like a guitar strap option you can get. And it was
cool.
Originally I did that so that people could go camping with it.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Like, sit around a campfire, somebody brings a guitar and the drummer's always tapping on his legs. So I thought, hey, why not?
Guitar, well, and that's how snare drum started, with straps. So, but it's really cool. So
yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time, and I really appreciate your interest
Likewise.
in the products. And I look forward to working with you going forward.
Likewise, it's so much fun. So, all right, Erik. Well, thank you so much. I guess we'll see you on the next one.
All right, thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.